Alright guys, we're back. This is a massive point to understand how dynamic the RWA space is. That way you all can just navigate that. What's going on everybody? It's your boy JT and we are back to the Crypto Den. Today we are going to have a very good discussion about RWA. There was a question from a follower that I felt needed an actual video. Why someone who wants to bring a real world asset online, why they would choose their own layer 1 versus the current infrastructure that's out there. Like, why use that infrastructure at all? Why not just build your own? It's a great question because that starts your fundamentals research right there. What is the competitive landscape? What does it actually look like? Because theoretically all this is open source, so anyone in the world can go copy it. But I want to show you guys the decision matrix that these individuals are in, and then hopefully that will, let you understand really who is positioned to do well, and also just what is the likelihood of all of these outcomes. If you don't know, before I get into all that, I am Jake Tullis. I go by JT. I run a digital asset hedge fund called Bleeding Edge Capital. We are out of Cincinnati, Ohio. So I manage high net worth individual capital in the market, and I run a discretionarily long research driven fund. I leverage my over a decade of experience in software development to underwrite these things at a professional caliber. Let's get to it, y'all. We have a company that wants to RWA. They want to bring real world assets online. And if you saw on-chain. And if you saw my last video, you would understand how Ondo and Chainlink work together. I don't want to dive deep into those on this one, but I'll loosely explain what they do because they are actually going to be a big component. I'm just using one example, and then we'll kind of just apply it to different networks, because today we're going to be talking about someone that has real estate. You're a real estate holdings company, and you want to bring your real estate on chain. You want to hypothecate its value. You want to take $1 billion of real estate and turn it into $1 billion of digital currency that people can buy and sell. You have a choice. You can subscribe to this design right here. We're going to call this ABC Holdings here. You have a choice. You can go to Ondo. This is the existing infrastructure. And I really do think Ondo could be replaced with a few other companies, but I do think Ondo has the best. I mean, they have 80% of the market share. Ondo is basically going to hold your hand through all of the development in bringing your token to the best ecosystem. They're on, I want to say, 20 chains. So it doesn't have to be Ethereum. We're just doing Ethereum. But in terms of RWA, like people that have actually tokenized assets, 80% of them go through, 79% in 10 chains. My bad. 10 chains, 80%. You can go to Ondo, and what they'll do is you got to strip your assets and your data. Real estate here, and this is deeds, titles, rents, loans, all of that data. So then Ondo's going to help you figure out how to make this get onto Ethereum. So they're going to go to the Oracle network. To Chainlink, and they're going to be like, hey, do you have any oracles for this address? They'll be like, no shot. Ondo's going to help you build an oracle, hook up your data through this pipe. Then you're going to be able to build a token and have this data get all the way to Ethereum. And it's relatively smooth. All of this stuff is already set up. These are the actual pipes that people are using to bring treasuries, real estate, gold onto Ethereum. And if it's something that already does exist, you can just pay the data provider on Chainlink in Link, and you'll get that data, so you don't even have to build anything. That's what this decision point is right here. If it does exist, you can just buy Link and use the existing Oracle. It's like an API. If it doesn't, you need to build your own API or your own Oracle, and then all of your data can get into Ethereum. So if you didn't build your own L1 and you just wanted to launch a token, you can call one individual company and be like, hey, I need help with this. They're going to help you all the way through. That's what Ondo does. And if you are a real estate expert, you really don't want to be talking about software all day or starting a software development project. That sounds miserable. That's where Ondo comes in. All right. Now, making your own L1 looks a lot different. This is really where and it makes sense for some people. Let's think about it this way. You're the same company, and now you're going to choose option 2. You want to build your own L1. Since Ethereum is a public, it's code base, you can genuinely pick a block and just copy paste Ethereum. The reason why, as a company that wants to bring your real estate and RE data on chain, is a few reasons, but one of them is security. Another one is, well, you want to actually make money off things that, like, it's called hypothecation. So if you have $1,000 in a bank account, the bank will hypothecate it into $10,000. They add 9,000 to it. They can write a loan for 10 grand on your $1,000 deposit. Basically, the $4 billion of real estate, then creating a $4 billion market cap token, that's $8 billion. So there's a lot of incentive for them to do this. And then that token that didn't cost much to create, maybe 20, 30 million with Ondo and Link and all that. Now you're just getting people's ETH for the token, the exposure into real estate. You're this company and you decide that you want to make your own. If you want that security and you want the people to actually be trading the tokens, you lose that immediately. If you clone Ethereum, notice how these crazy amount of users, there's literally millions and tens and tens and tens of millions of users, and the hundreds of thousands of nodes, they disappear, they're gone. You now have real estate network with one node, your instance, and no users except for your company employees, probably. Tough. That's really tough. You have to individually address Link, Uni, and Ondo. If you want the token to be an ERC20 EVM compatible token, so at least these users can bridge the assets over. If you don't even know about that, you're really screwed because you're going to have to recruit your own users to your network. Now, if you make it's an ETH clone, so it would be an ERC20 token. Since it's an ERC20 token, and it would be EVM compatible, you're going to need to reach out to these service providers and work with them individually to set up your own Oracle, your own liquidity pool, actually, you wouldn't even need Ondo. You're going to have to work with these two to make sure that your token and all of your data is the way it needs to be for people to actually get stable coins every month, as an example, for rent, right? You're investing in real estate and all this other stuff. And you're still going to need to recruit users. And you don't have a lot of security. If people are minting native assets on your network and they need a node to do it, and you can start like kickstarting or bootstrapping the network in general, that can work. But this is a more significant lift, and it wouldn't make sense for most people. Now, where does it make sense? If this same company wanted to create a real estate network, like let's say RIA. RIA is a great example. RIA is massive. Let's say RIA also owned property and they had enough property to start their own network, and they were going to start at 10 billion. They have 400,000 or 500,000 members across the United States. 10 billion is not a lot for them if they wanted to. And they started this $10 billion network. They could jumpstart, hey, if you want equity in RIA property, buy our token. They could jumpstart their own network. They could do their own thing, and they would make a lot more money if they did it that way. And it was a closed network. They could profit significantly from this strategy. And the real messed up part is your clone can be modified however you want. So another thing is, for the sanctity of blockchain and technology, RIA did this, okay, and they put all their stuff on their own network, and then they recruited humans to use their stuff, right, on their clone. This could only be one node, so it's not decentralized. They own it. It's no different than a company at this point, and it could be permissioned. That would be like a CBDC. Or you could leave it open and all that stuff. People can build, and you could have more real estate come onto the platform and all this stuff, which would be really cool. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. It's your network. So it's the most composable thing. And cloning Ethereum would give you a good jumpstart on modifying it to your benefit. And if you don't believe me, take a look at JP Morgan, because they did this back in 2017. Oh, they relet it. Yeah. Connexus by JP Morgan is bank-led blockchain, reimagining the way money, assets, and financial information move. This is actually a copy. But look at this. This is a JP Morgan. They have their own deposit token, proof of concept, but they started working this in 2017. And this is exactly the choice they made, because they have their own network. They have their own infrastructure. Like, it's way different for JP Morgan than just your Joe Schmo. Joe Schmo would probably just go to Ondo, right? Like, if you only got a couple billion and you don't have a lot of stuff going on, in terms of a network, like people, human to human network that could earning users, you're probably just going to go to Ondo and pick Ethereum because it's the most secure. If you're a big boy, if you're institutional size, really in any vertical, like RIA or JP Morgan, doesn't really matter. The numbers are different between finance and, real estate networking, but you get the idea. Like the top of the field in every single vertical, it might make sense to do this. Hey everybody, it's JT. Just in case you didn't know, I would love a sub. Almost 97% of you that have viewed our content have not subscribed, and it would mean the world to me if you just hit that sub button, give us a like, and let us know how we're doing. All right, back to the content. Because again, you can just recruit your, 80 million banking customers or whatever. I don't know if they have Nightfall. There we go. Look at that. Aha. See? Ernst & Young too. Nightfall. It has updated the public domain source code for Nextdoor, a layer 2 rollup that enables private transactions on the public Ethereum blockchain, built by Ernst & Young, one of the big four. So this makes sense for institutional grade companies, entities, individuals, whatever. Now, companies like Ondo, they're hooked up to 10 different, blockchains. They are a turnkey service provider that works with all the solutions we talk about on this channel and the individual that wants to bring their assets on chain. They work with all of those parties to then launch a token, which is really interesting and super dope. You have Circle doing the same thing, almost the exact same thing with stable. So stablecoin is a service. People are basically white labeling USDC. So, because stablecoins, for those that don't know, are the first RWA. It is cash on chain because it's the easiest asset to do. The metadata is real simple. It's just an accounting. It's a ledger. That's it. As you start getting more complex assets that you want to move on chain, the data requirements and all of the nuances there become really challenging. And that's why it's taking so long. And a lot of these institutions are deciding that building their own makes sense. And then there's also a lot of other ones that are deciding I'd rather just use the rails that exist today because I want to get to market quick. And then the other people could be more long-term. Maybe they just think 10 years from now they'd like to be able to do whatever they want on their own private chain. They don't want to open it up. JP Morgan and Ernst & Young look like they are actually releasing public source code. That's great. They were not doing that for 6 years. So maybe the pressures have gotten to them, or maybe they actually see the benefit of a public blockchain with that deep liquidity and user base. Either way, both options are viable. It just depends on the counterparty and what they would like to do and what their vision is for the actual asset. If you were a Joe Schmo and you had 4 billion in real estate, maybe you had 100,000, that'd be too much. However many tenants you have, you could have your own micro chain, 10, 20,000 users that just log on to a app and they pay with your specific stable token if you wanted to, and they get, I don't know. That would be weird though. If you can tell, it's much easier just to go to Ondo in that situation. Hopefully that makes sense. If you're trying to decide what wins and when, the when part's hard, but hopefully this helped you understand the decision that these, companies need to make and the kind of position they would have to be in to make either one. All right, guys. Until next time, take care of one another. God bless. Peace and love. I'll see you.